Hi, everybody, and welcome back. Episode 12 of the Vegan Alliance podcast. Sorry if it's a little bit loud here today. There might be a little bit of background noise because I have recently moved house and I do live next to a semi-busy road. So every now and then a motorbike will go past and it might be a little bit loud, but I'm sure it won't really take away from my voice. So you should still be able to hear what I've got to say. Thanks again for tuning in. I know it has been nearly 2 months now since my last episode. Reason for that is it's not that I haven't been motivated to do anything. I just have my sort of mind's been elsewhere, I guess. We had to move out of our house and we were staying with a friend up in the hills for about 6 weeks before we moved into our new house. So I've been sort of moving around a little bit, and if you've moved before, you know how painful moving house can be. So we did that. I did unfortunately also lose my job. The company I was working for did actually go under, so I was made redundant, which, it was a bit stressful at the time, but moving on to some new and exciting things. But actually something I want to talk about on today's episode is looking for jobs, and when you're a vegan or when you don't want to do anything or have any part in animal exploitation, but you can never be 100% sure when you're going for a new job because you don't quite know whether something like that might pop up or something you're against might sort of be required of you in a new position, especially in retail jobs as well. There's probably a lot of places that are really, really good, but then they might still sell some products that aren't so good for animals and the environment. So it's sort of, what do you do being a vegan? And I know it's difficult. And I know a lot of people out there who are vegan and have completely non-vegan jobs. Perhaps they had them before they went vegan. Perhaps they are looking for something else, but sort of are stuck there in the meantime. And understand people are definitely jobs are hard to come by sometimes, and sometimes you're sort of stuck with what you got. But I guess the only thing you can do is try your best. And if you are stuck in a job that's definitely not vegan, I guess it's probably something that you should look at getting out of at some point, because it doesn't. If you're working at McDonald's, for instance, it's not really going to sit in line with the vegan ethics and morals, which is tough. You're blatantly selling animal products day in, day out. There are other jobs that might require you to do sort of, you might work in a retail store that sells 90% of things that are vegan, but they might sell one leather product. I mean, it's not ideal, but the nature of the world that we live in is that it is tough to find a 100% vegan job. So you can only do your best, and it's like being vegan. You can only do your best, and you need to do whatever you can to help animals at all times, but you need to also understand that we do live in a world that isn't a vegan world, unfortunately, and at times things pop up that make it a lot harder to do everything in line with your ethics. So you really just have to try your best and do everything that you can to minimize the suffering of animals and the destruction of the planet. So I've got a few things to talk about in regards to those few issues I just discussed. I think I'll start with the vegan job thing. I have definitely been looking for positions, and there is a lot of stuff that comes up, and there's probably a lot of things I could do. For instance, I have worked in the food industry business working with all vegan products in the past, and I thought when I first got made redundant, I thought, I could go and manage a supermarket. I know plenty of people that work in supermarkets. I could easily go and manage a supermarket, but I could go and make it vegan. I could try and get all these new products in and whatnot. But then I thought I couldn't do it because I couldn't knowingly place orders for things like meat and dairy products. And that's something you would have to if you were working in a supermarket. So that was kind of out of the question. Then there was a lot of other jobs that I looked at that kind of had certain aspects of it, that the percentage of doing things or selling things that were not vegan was quite high. So I really had to sort of look elsewhere, which definitely cut down my options for new jobs. but I wanted to do my best. So I had a little bit of time up my sleeve, and something did fall into place. I am now working with a company who does produce vegan meat products, and it's relatively new, so I might spill the beans on a future episode, but I am working with them, and we're aiming to get our products into more restaurants and cafes, pubs, those kind of things, to sort of and work with them to create good menus and get more people eating these kind of things to their restaurants. So I was very lucky to find some work that was 100% in line with my morals, but at the same time, it is only part-time work for now, so it's not something I can do for the long term. So I've been putting the feelers out there, but I just want everyone to know that, if you do work somewhere that isn't 100% vegan, you don't need to stress, and you don't need to think, I'm a horrible vegan. All you need to do is look at the options, explore the options, aim to get yourself out of that position at some point, and aim to get yourself working in an environment that is as sustainable and ethical as possible. You can only do your best. And that leads me to another point, which I've been thinking about a lot lately, is the issue of pets, cats and dogs, mostly domesticated pets, and their diets. And that's been something that's I have talked about on previous episodes of the podcast, but it definitely plays on my mind a lot. And I was listening to podcasts by Gary L. Francione, and he mentions, he did a short podcast, it was only about 10 minutes long, on his views on feeding animal products to domesticated companion animals. Obviously with dogs can be vegan. Dogs really eat anything, and they can survive on a 100% vegan diet. And even I've noticed in the supermarkets these days, there's so many fantastic vegan options for dogs. In Australia, I've seen a thing called V-Dog. There's the Vegan Pet. There's a whole heap of other ones that I've seen around. But then with cats, the only one I know of in Australia is Vegan Pet, and the only other ones that you can get, well, to be honest, Vegan Pet isn't that good. My cats don't want to touch it. I've tried again and again, and I've tried lacing it with all these different things to try and get them to eat it, but they just won't eat it. So that didn't really work that well for me. And all these other ones that I see on the internet are either in Europe or the US, and the shipping on them is about $180 just to get a bag of cat food shipped over to try. So I don't even know if they're going to eat it. So I just haven't been able to justify spending nearly $200 on shipping plus the product to get it over here just to see if my pets will eat it or not. And what I would I'd like to touch base on as far as cats go is, you get some people who definitely say you shouldn't have cats if you're a vegan. And that's all well and good to say, but the bottom line is that cats exist. They're here and they're domesticated, and they need human love and care because it's just the way they've been brought up. They rely on us to eat. They rely on us for shelter. They rely on us for their health. And we can't just abandon them. You can't just, not take a cat in because you don't want to feed the cat what you might not eat yourself. So I've definitely found this conflicting because me and my wife don't buy any animal products at all. But then when it comes to our cats, when we realised they wouldn't eat vegan food, and we did try a lot. We tried all the vegan options we could get our hands on. Then we tried making things, and we tried lacing their food with things like I said before, but we just couldn't get them to eat anything. So we had to sort of look at ways to minimise the amount of animal products we actually buy for them. So we had to sort of do our research and look at the different types of food, see how much animal products that actually had in it, and try and pick the things that had less animal products in it, so we just were buying less. And I think for me with cats is my cats, I've got 6 cats, they're all rescues, they've all just come from the streets, and they all would have died if they weren't rescued. And I could have easily said, no, I don't want to rescue them because I don't want to I don't want to support the pet food industry. Someone else can deal with it. But at the end of the day, if I left it up to someone else, they're not going to be as mindful as what me and my wife are when we feed our cats. So by us taking them in, we've actually got the ability to minimize their impact on animals. So it's not ideal, and it's like I said, it's very conflicting because, you know, when you are purchasing these products, you feel like you're going at something you're like dead set morally against. But the cats have to eat, and it wouldn't be vegan of us to just put the cats out in the street. It wouldn't be vegan of us to kill the cats because we didn't want them to kill so many animals. So we're really caught in this catch-22. So I've got a little bit of the podcast from Gary L. Francione that I thought I might play, just so you can sort of hear his views on it. But he does mention how there's sort of two ways to look at it. There's things that are morally justifiable, and then there's things that are morally excusable. Eating meat for a human's just not morally justifiable. You can't morally justify eating meat because you just don't need it. You've got the brain capacity to know that there are other options out there, and if you do eat it, you're really only choosing to eat it because you like the taste. You don't need it for any nutritional value. It's either out of habit or just personal preference. Something that's morally excusable would be, and this is what Gary L. Francione talks about, is that if you've explored every option for your cat to try and feed your cat something that is vegan and they won't touch it, and you know you've talked to vets and you've done your research, and there's no other way you can get your cats to eat, and they're going to get sick and die if you don't feed them anything, then it doesn't make the fact that you're purchasing or feeding them animal products okay by any means. It's not okay. I would never feel good about it, but it is morally excusable because there's just no other choice. So it's very difficult because just because something's morally excusable doesn't mean, you know, anyone's ever going to feel good about doing it. But there's just certain things in life that sometimes you do have to do what's necessary, and in order to help something else. So I'll let him explain it. He probably explains it a little bit better than me, but it definitely made me feel a little bit better about the fact that I do have to do this for my cats. And, you know, I've done this good deed by rescuing these cats who do need somewhere to live and they do need food. But then I'm left with this constant catch-22 situation where I don't know whether I'm doing the right thing or not. So I'm going to let him explain. I'm just going to play this now, and then we'll jump back into it afterwards.
I don't know what the answer is. I'm going to address the issue assuming that, for argument's sake, that there are some cats who simply cannot exist on a vegan diet. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Certainly, it's the case that many cats can exist and do very well and prosper on a vegan diet. But I'm assuming that there are going to be some that can't. And then the question becomes, well, what do we do about those cats? I want to draw a distinction between moral justification and moral excuse. When we say that something's morally justified, we say it's okay. When we say that something's morally excusable, we say, well, it's not okay, but we understand why you did it. Okay? An example of moral justification, and I'll use a legal example. In the law, if I reasonably believe that you are about to inflict deadly physical force on me, you come up to me with a gun, and I reasonably believe you're about to shoot me, and I shoot you first. Under the law, that is self-defense, and that's a justifiable homicide. Basically, what the law says is, in that situation, your self-defense it's okay. You did something that was all right. It's an unfortunate thing that you had to do, but there's nothing morally wrong with what you did. Excuse, let's use a different legal example to illustrate excuse. Excuse involves a situation where, let us say, I put a gun to your head and say, go in and, I put a gun to your child's head and I say, go in and rob that grocery store, or else I'm going to kill your child. You go in and rob the grocery store. That can be a situation in which the law says you've been subject to duress. We understand why you did it. What you did wasn't morally right. It wasn't morally right for you to go in and rob the store. What you did was wrong. But we understand why you did it. Now, I don't think it's ever morally justifiable to feed meat or other animal products to an animal, whether it's a cat or any other animal. I don't think it's morally justifiable. There can be situations in which it's morally excusable. If you have adopted a feline refugee and you have done everything possible, and that's an important qualification, you have really done the work, you've done the research, you've gone and talked to vets and gotten the information, and you've tried different things and whatever. You've tried your very best to get the cat on a vegan diet. If you can't get the cat on a vegan diet, then I think there's a very good argument that feeding a minimal amount of animal products to the cat is morally excusable. It's not justifiable. It's not all right to do, but what are you going to do? You're stuck in a bad situation. No matter what you do, it's not going to be acceptable. I mean, what are you going to do? Let the cat starve? And throw the cat out and say, it's your problem, I'm not going to deal with it? So, this is the problem that we have when we domesticate animals and we have this institution called pet ownership.
Yeah, so that's Gary L. Francione and his views on feeding animal products to cats who can't always or won't always eat vegan options. So, yeah, very, very hard situation that you can find yourself in as a vegan. And I do, as I said, I do have 6 cats and I'm constantly struggling with this. But I always live in the hope that by abolishing slaughterhouses and abolishing the animal agriculture industry through lack of human consumption of these animal products, that if those industries are no longer around, then the pet food industry is going to have to find some other ways to start selling their products, which it would mean they would have to look at plant-based options if animals weren't being killed, if these places didn't exist to kill animals. So we can only live in the hope that at some point they will put some effort into developing good vegan options for cats. I have absolutely no problem with feeding vegan options to my cats, but as long as they're getting the nutrients that they need, it really doesn't matter where they come from. It's just more so the fact of actually getting them to eat it. Cats are very, very fussy and they just look at food if they don't like it and just walk away. Even if they're hungry, they just won't eat it until you give them something that they want. So we are going to play around with some other options. As I said, we've been minimizing and definitely doing the research and looking into what ingredients are actually in each of the cat foods that we buy. We've even had a bit of an idea that we could make our own completely vegan cat food, wet cat food, and lace it with a little bit of fish oil. Again, I hate the idea that I would have to buy fish oil, but if that's the only thing I need to buy to get my cats to eat and otherwise vegan pet food, that might be my best option. So I'm actually going to experiment with that just a little bit to see if we can get them to do that. In the meantime, if anyone, and I have asked for this before, I didn't really get much feedback, but that was in some of the earlier episodes, so there maybe wasn't as many listeners. But if any of the new listeners have found a miracle way of getting cats to eat vegan pet food and 100% vegan. I mean, if I don't have to put the fish oil in, I wouldn't. But let me know, because I really do want to get my cats over to a vegan diet. And some of my cats, 2 or 3 of them actually love vegan food. Like they will come up and like munch what we're having. They definitely like vegan cheese and vegan mayonnaise, but they can't. It's not sustainable. You can't just give them that all the time. It's not good for them just to have all the time. So we have to find this something that's a complete diet for the cats, but at the same time healthy and tastes good for them as well. So if you've got any more information on that, get in touch. My email is theveganalliance618@gmail.com, or you can contact me on any of the social media platforms. On Gary L. Francione, he actually runs a website. It's called the Abolitionist Approach. If you don't know what the abolitionist approach is when it comes to veganism, it's only something that I've sort of probably in the last year or so started to understand, but it's something that I guess it's more about the abolition of these industries and animal suffering and animal cruelty, as opposed to just minimizing. And when I say minimizing, I don't mean like minimizing like what the animal products that you eat or whatever, but I mean like sort of animal welfare groups who sort of their main goal is just to try and get better standards for these industries, but still allow the practices to go on. So I guess an abolitionist doesn't really support those kind of organisations that just sort of fight for better standards for animals in factory farms or RSPCA approved meat, those kind of things. It doesn't matter how kind you are to the animal. At the end of the day, the animal suffers and dies in fear and pain. And no sort of amount of kindness to the animal before that happens to them is justifiable. So I guess abolitionists sort of say, no, we're not going to just like make things better for these animals and continue it. We're actually going to stop it. And that's our goal. An abolitionist goal is to stop it. And I've had a bit of a look at the sort of main principles of abolitionists. And I do say that I'm an abolitionist. There's probably only one thing in this sort of, mission statement of being an abolitionist that I'm not 100% on board with. And that's they don't generally like to support single issue campaigns, things that might be like save the whales or save the monkeys, those kind of things, saving the dogs in Bali, for instance. But for me, I think those single issue campaigns, although they should be aiming to abolish whatever that issue is, not just make it better for the animals, but I think things like Sea Shepherd or people getting involved with dog rescue or those kind of things are the things that actually, and I've seen this happen, are the things that actually make people end up considering animals more so and leading them towards a vegan diet. For instance, I think Sea Shepherd is a really, really good one. I've met a lot of people through Sea Shepherd. I have volunteered with Sea Shepherd over the years, and you meet a lot of people who aren't vegan. They just want to do it because they love the ocean or they love surfing or they, some of them. I even met one guy who's just. I think I mentioned him on one of the previous podcasts. He was a fisherman, and just getting involved with things like Sea Shepherd because they think it's better for their hobby or better for their lifestyle actually leads them to going, oh wow, these animals really suffer. I really actually should look a bit more into it, and it's like a stepping stone into veganism. It's like my mum. She was involved with dog rescue. She did it for years and years and years. And now she's pretty much vegan. And it was something she probably had never considered before, just because that compassion towards animals and the empathy that she had for them and in their ability to suffer, she started to understand it. So I guess I do think the single issue campaigns can be a really, really good aid in helping people understand the suffering of animals a little bit more. So it's probably the only thing if we look at the mission statement of sort of abolitionists that I'm not 100% into. But everything else is right on point, exactly how I feel. I mean, there's sort of 6 principles here, and you can have a look for yourself on the abolitionistapproach.com. Number 1, the abolitionists maintain that all sentient beings, human or non-human, have one right, the basic right not to be treated as the property of others. 100%, no human or other sentient being should ever be treated as the property of others. Each life is theirs to live, and shouldn't be their life shouldn't be dictated by somebody else, and neither should their fate. Principle 2, abolitionists maintain that our recognition of this one basic right means that we must abolish and not merely regulate institutionalised and animal exploitation, and that abolitionists should not support welfare reform campaigns or single-issue campaigns. Again, I don't 100%. I'm not 100% on board with that single-issue campaign thing, but I don't really think supporting welfare reform is anything. I don't think the RSPCA trying to get in there and make all these better standards for animals, and then you see these documentaries on TV of farms that are RSPCA approved, and they're just as bad as the farms that aren't RSPCA approved. So really, I just don't think they're really doing much for animals at all. They're just making their life a tiny bit more comfortable before they're slaughtered. So. That's an important one. Abolitionists, number 3, abolitionists maintain that veganism is a moral baseline, which I 100% agree with. I think everybody should be vegan, and it really is the sort of the basics. And that creative, non-violent vegan education must be the cornerstone of rational animal rights advocacy, which I 100% agree with. We should never be violent. We need to be outspoken. We need to be strong with our message. But violence and sort of good education is so important to get people thinking about animal rights. Number 4, the abolitionist approach links the moral status of non-humans with sentience alone, and not with any other cognitive characteristics. All sentient beings are equal for the purpose of not being used exclusively as a resource. Again, 100% agree. No sentient being should have to suffer just because of the selfishness of another. Number 5, abolitionists reject all forms of human discrimination, including racism, sexism, heterosexism, ageism, ableism, and classism. I feel like I'm in line with all of those things. I don't think any of those things are acceptable in 2017. Obviously, you don't have to be you don't have to necessarily agree with all those things to be a vegan, but I think it's in your best interest just as a good person to be on board with all those things, because everybody's got their own things going on. Everybody has their own feelings, their own thoughts, their own emotions, and everybody deserves the right, if it's not harming others and it's just sort of extending an extension of who they are, I feel like they have the right to be able to if someone is a man that sort of feels like they're a woman, they have every right to dress as a woman and be a woman if that's how they feel. That's completely up to them. That's a personal choice. Humans should be free from discrimination. No one should be. Racism should be abolished. I mean, in 2017, I can't understand how people are still racist. I mean, it doesn't matter what color your skin is. It doesn't matter where you're born. We're all just humans on a planet. We're all earthlings. Sexism, obviously, absolutely ridiculous. Men and women should be 100% equal. I know things didn't used to be like that, and men definitely had a lot more dominance over women, but it's great to see that things are getting better for women, and not to say that they're perfect, but it's good to see that, through a lot of fighting over sort of the last sort of 50, 100 years from women's rights groups, that they're actually, are making some headway, and women are just as equal as men in most senses. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it is getting better. And all the other things there too, ageism, ableism, and classism as well. And principle number 6, abolitionists recognise the principle of non-violence as a core principle of the animal rights movement. Well, obviously, as we touched base on just a second ago, there's no need for violence in the animal rights movement. We just need to educate people through good, strong messages, the truth, sharing the facts, and not backing down. There's just absolutely no need for violence. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about that because it's definitely something I've, in the last year or so, I have said that I am an abolitionist vegan, but there was a couple of things in there that I wasn't 100% in agreement with, and I wanted to explain why I think, which was mostly the single issue campaign thing, but I wanted to explain why I think single issue campaigns can be and are very, very effective. I mean, I only mentioned Sea Shepherd there, but another big thing probably happens more so in North America, Canada, and places where it's generally a lot colder than Australia, but anti-fur campaigns, I think they're absolutely amazing and 100% necessary. It is weird because, so many people wear leather, but leather's like... Fur's a lot more of a fashion. It's a real fashion statement. It's a real sort of show of money and how much you're willing to spend on a jacket or on whatever the product is. But I think it's one of those things that it needs to be denounced, because you don't want people walking around wearing the skin of 50 dead animals thinking that they're something special because they spent $10,000 on some ridiculous looking item of clothing that was made from a tortured animal. So I really think the anti-fur movement really kind of, and especially what's going on with people like Rob Banks and the whole Canada Goose campaign, and basically people just standing there, just talking to people about the fur trim on their coat and letting them know that it's not acceptable to wear it. They don't look cool by wearing it, and it's not a fashion statement. And letting them know where it comes from will actually sort of stop these. Will hopefully stop people buying these types of products and bring these industries down, because these industries just thrive. I mean, the fur industry is an industry of its own. I mean, the leather industry, I guess, is an offshoot of the meat and dairy industry, and they, as much as it's no worse, it's just they're using the products from the animal agriculture industry. So in that sense, if we want to get rid of leather, we get rid of the animal agriculture industry. We get rid of the meat industry, which stops the animals being killed, which stops the leather being available. So, but with fur, it's a specific thing. They're breeding animals just for fur trim or just for fur coat. So, I mean, people need to know that it's not acceptable to wear these things, and people need to know that they'll be approached if they're wearing them, confronted and educated on why they shouldn't wear them. So, yeah, there are definitely some single issue campaigns that I think are super effective, and we should all support. Another thing I wanted to talk about as well was something I heard on Triple J last night or the night before on the show The Hack. They had Peter Singer on there from on Triple J as a guest. And they were interviewing him on sort of why vegan and why people should be more ethical and how it helps the environment and whatnot. And then they had a lady on there called Dr. Heather Bray. She works at the University of Adelaide. And she, I don't know, just for someone so educated, just to hear them talk about things like, like if we can do it in a better way, that's much better for the animals and for the environment. Or, people make their own choices and this kind of thing. Just from someone who's supposed to be so educated, and just hearing these kinds of like justifications for the murder and slaughter of innocent animals, I just sort of blows my mind that people can be so intelligent in one sense, but so dumb as well. People talking about how we can kill animals in a better way. Yet when you really think about it, what way is there to kill an animal that's better than another way? I mean, at the end of the day, the animal dies, and the animal doesn't want to die. So we're sitting here discussing better ways to kill animals. I mean, imagine if we were all sitting around discussing better ways to kill children or better ways to kill dogs or something like that, something that people are already morally opposed to. It's sound like a bunch of psychopaths. So, yeah, it's when I hear these kind of things, and it really, really bums me out. I mean, I think it's great that programs on sort of mainstream radio stations and TV do sort of have these kind of stories, but just sometimes when I listen to the comments from people who are otherwise intelligent people, it just blows my mind that people still think this way. So, yeah, you can listen to that episode of The Hack just on the Triple J website. But it wasn't anything groundbreaking. It was more just like annoying to hear these kind of views and ideas from people when the only logical idea is to not kill the animal in the first place, not even breed the animal to be killed, because these animals are just born into a life of suffering, and we don't need the animals in the first place. And if they're only going to be born into a life of suffering, they shouldn't be born at all. If we're going to bring animals into this world, we need to treat them with compassion and respect. And that's the bottom line. Now, I'm sure if, unless you've been living under a rock, or maybe you don't have Netflix, even if you don't have Netflix, you must have been living under a rock to not actually hear about it. But Okja, the film that came out recently about the sort of really cute super pig that was bred and sort of formed this relationship. But people form this relationship with the pig, and then all of a sudden it's sent off to the slaughterhouse. Sorry, I shouldn't say it. That's a bad habit that I think where I hear it all the time, and it frustrates me. Whenever I say it when in regards to an animal, it actually drives me a little bit nuts. So I do apologise if I ever do it. It's a bad habit, and animals shouldn't be referred to as its because they are someone. So we should respect that and call them what they are. So yes. Sorry about that. Anyway, that was a little off track, but yeah, just something I do notice myself. I catch myself saying sometimes. So I just wanted to let you know that I don't mean to say it. Anyway, Okja, it is one of those films that I heard a lot about, and I was like, everyone's like, it's going to make you. People were texting me saying, you've got to see Okja. It's going to make you so upset. It's such a sad film. Like, oh, like I was in tears, and I was like, oh god. And so I had to find the right time to actually listen, to watch Okja, because I was kind of like, I want to be in that right frame of mind. I don't want to be feeling, a bit average that day for whatever reason, and then I watch this film that just kind of like makes me feel miserable. Anyway, me and my wife watched it, and we got to the end, and we were kind of like, that wasn't so bad. And obviously, the story was sad, and it was like sort of heartwarming to see the outcome, but sad at the outcome as well, because neither way is it good. There's just there's a few good aspects to the outcome of the movie, I guess. But what am I trying to say? I think through my animal rights activism, I've seen a lot of bad stuff to do with animals. Through my online social media stuff, I do watch all the videos that pop up. Some of them are very tough to watch sometimes. Sometimes I make small videos, so I am looking at the footage of animals in factory farms and slaughterhouses. And I think also, with Anonymous for the Voiceless, we do show some pretty hard-hitting stuff. So, and I just feel like I'm used to seeing that stuff, which is rough to say, because I don't feel good that I'm a bit desensitized to this kind of thing, but I feel like I am. And I think the reason Okja maybe didn't affect me as it may have affected other people is that I've accepted that this happens, and I've witnessed it for myself, and I am totally aware of the fact that animals are completely mistreated and abused. I think a lot of other people who maybe hide from that kind of footage aren't as aware, maybe not quite as, they haven't sort of woken up as much as I have in regards to the suffering of animals. I think it hits home a little bit more because it's this nice story about a beautiful animal that has this fantastic relationship with this little girl. Then all of a sudden there's the slaughterhouse, and people are just like, oh my god, this is so horrible, how could they do this? When in fact this actually happens day in, day out in every single city that we live in every single state, in every single country all around the world. Like, this happens to animals that are just like Okja. And I know the film was a little bit kind of quirky, I guess. It definitely had like sort of like these semi kind of funny parts and a little bit kind of like cringeworthy parts, I guess, like the Animal Liberation Front, who I'm a big supporter of. I think the Animal Liberation Front do some great work, but they were kind of maybe portrayed a little bit kind of wacky, but I still kind of like the fact that they were portrayed at all, and that like on like sort of a mainstream platform like Netflix, that they actually were represented. So it was kind of cool to see a film that really got people thinking. And there was some Google Analytics stuff that came out around that time, just showing the massive spike in searches for how to go vegan right after Okja had screened. And it's sort of funny how when these films come out, like What the Health, Earthlings, Okja, Cowspiracy, all these, there's so many influential things that have come out, but you see that, and if you actually were to look at the sort of spikes in people looking for vegan options or things people are searching for on the internet, there's a lot of spikes sort of coinciding with the release of these films, documentaries. So it's very interesting, and they're very, very powerful. And if you haven't seen Okja, I highly recommend seeing it. If you haven't seen What the Health as well, What the Health is, I feel like that has really broken some ground. That's just such a good film. And my mum came to me. She said, "I watched this film the other day on Netflix, and it was all about how the pharmaceutical companies are keeping us sick, and the cancer and the diabetes associations, don't really want to recognise that these foods are bad for us." And I was like, "Yeah, Mum, this is stuff I feel like I know because I look into it a lot, but other people are so blown away by it, and all they really needed was this kind of they needed access to these things." And I guess because Netflix is so popular, all of a sudden these programs on Netflix, so people watch them, they're like, "Oh my God." But it's kind of more in their face than, they can just scroll past it on Facebook. I think it's a bunch of some weird documentary that a bunch of wacky vegans have made. But when it's on Netflix, they're like, "Oh, it must be good. I'll watch that." And then when they actually hear the truth, they're quite shocked by it. So, yeah, definitely push, promote. And if you haven't seen them, watch those films. So, definitely wasn't as affected by Okja as I thought I would be, but it was still a good film and quite enjoyable. Something I talked about just in one of my recent YouTube videos, that was only a brief video I did last week, I think. It was about vegan YouTubers who sort of just push certain types of vegan diets onto people. Not a vegan diet, like certain sort of offshoots of vegan diets, whether it be raw or high carb, low fat, those kind of things. Not that I think there's anything wrong with any of those diets. Some of them I'm sure can be completely healthy and taste great. But I just think that there's some of these people have such huge followings, and this real platform to try and get people over to being vegan. But, when someone new is sort of told that, you got to go vegan for these reasons, but, you should only eat bananas, or you should only eat raw fruits, or you should only eat this at this time and this at that time, makes it very, very overwhelming and very, very difficult for people to feel good about doing it because it confuses them. So I think even though those diets can be really, really great, I feel like there's something that people can move into once they've actually got it into the vegan thing. And most importantly is getting people vegan, because by people being vegan, it means less animals are suffering, which I feel like some of these people who definitely have these big profiles should, not that they're doing anything bad. I don't think it's bad. I just think that the way that they're approached, the way that they could promote going vegan could be a little bit more effective and get more people interested, because people might feel a little bit like, shit, I can't eat this and I can't eat that, and then I've got to sort of monitor what time I'm eating this food. And I feel like getting people vegan is the number one thing. So I would suggest to anyone who is thinking about going vegan to firstly just try and cut out animal products. And whether you do that over the course of a week or a month, just slowly cut everything out. And start with meat, which is probably the easiest, and then cut out the dairy, then cut out eggs. Or, if you're feeling like it and you're feeling really creative and you sort of think you know what you're doing, just cut it all out at once. But if you need that, transitional period, transition with a goal of being 100% vegan. But, if you do think, I want to move to like being raw and really, really healthy, that's great. You could definitely do that. But until you sort of know what you can eat and know how your sort of body is adjusting to, new foods, or with lack of other foods, which are bad for you anyway, but just, your body does take some time to adjust to things. Just do it slowly, and, don't be afraid if you want to, if you used to eat burgers all the time and you used to eat a heap of junk food and pizza and that kind of stuff, and then, you're now vegan, but you're kind of like, oh, I'm really craving this food. Don't go and eat a pizza. Go and eat a vegan pizza, make yourself feel good about the choices that you've made, and make yourself realize how easy it is to be vegan, and that you can pretty much have all the stuff that you used to have. It's just in a different form. No, not even a different form. Most of it actually looks the same. It's just different ingredients, really. So It's just something I want to touch base on, just for people who might be thinking about going vegan and kind of think, oh, there's all these rules and regulations. There's really not. The only rules and regulations are just don't eat animal products. That's it. Just cut animal products out of your diet. It's super, super easy. And if you want to replace all the meats and the dairy and those kind of things, sure, you can do all that. There's plenty of options in supermarkets these days. And if you don't, you just want to eat fruits and vegetables and be super, super healthy, go for it. But most importantly is just be vegan. I don't by any means want to sort of take away from what some of these sort of online activists actually do. I'm sure they help more people than not, but I just worry about people who might be feeling a little bit overwhelmed by the kind of the sort of guidelines, or where do I start, that kind of thing. So you just start by cutting things out, and then you go from there. Okay, so this, I guess it's a pretty short episode. It's only about 45 minutes at the moment. But I just wanted to sort of get the ball rolling again. It's been a couple of months off, so I haven't been doing a lot of activism, and I haven't been that sort of involved with Vegan Alliance stuff because my sort of head's been elsewhere with moving and looking for a job and those kind of things. So I'm in my new house now. I should have a job in the next few weeks. I've got a few things in the works. So once I'm back to my normal routine, the podcast will come thick and steady. I'll try and do one every month, I'd like to say. Hold me accountable to that. I do want to do one every month. I think more content is better. I've always got things to talk about. Just sometimes, a lot of the time I actually have all these things to talk about, but I don't write them down. And then when it comes to, I'm going to do a podcast, and I think, I don't know what I'm going to talk about this time, but then I've had all these things in my head. So I've started writing things down again. I'll get some notes. I'm not going to speak about everything in this episode that I've written down, because I do want to save some things for future episodes. I've got a few ideas. One of my next episodes, I don't know if it's going to be the next one or the one after, probably the next one. My friend's down from Queensland. She's very heavily involved with Sea Shepherd, knows a lot about sort of the marine world and the oceans and ocean life. So I want to get her on to talk about marine animals. And I'm also going to get my wife on, as she's very experienced and actually studied and written a thesis on fishing. So she knows a lot about fish and shellfish and everything that lives in the ocean. So we're going to get them on at some point, and like I said, hopefully the next episode, to talk about that, because I do feel like at times veganism definitely places a lot of emphasis on cows, pigs, chickens, sheep, those kind of animals, which is fine because it's very easy to bond with, because you go for a drive in the countryside and you just see them all the time. Whereas it might be a little bit harder to not harder, but you might not think as much about the whales or the fish or the different animals living in the ocean, because you just don't see them, So, but they're still there. Their lives are still just as valuable, and unfortunately, they are getting the same mistreatment, if not more, than the land animals. So definitely something. I've had some people actually ask if I could touch base on this, so I'm definitely going to have that on one of the upcoming episodes. As far as activism that I've got planned, next week there is another live export ship coming into Port Adelaide. It's a real old rust bucket. I think it's called the Beta 3. I haven't had this one in for a while now, so I haven't actually seen it myself in the flesh. So I'm actually going to go down and monitor that, because I'm still living quite close to the port. So I'm going to go down there and monitor it, check out the conditions of the animals. Obviously, the reason we do go down there is, I guess it's in the sort of vein like the animal saves that people do around the world. We like to go down to at least see the animals before they're taken away and give them, even if we just can interact with them in some way to let them know and that we care about them, and that not every human wants to see them killed. So we go down there for that reason. We also go down there because we try to get photos of any breaches that they might be doing at the port or with the handling of the animals off the trucks, so we can get that to the right people to get it sent off to the authorities, in the hope, and I know it's a long shot, but you can only try, is in the hope that eventually we can build up enough evidence to get this industry shut down. The live export industry is just appalling, and they keep expanding and putting all this extra money into it when it's something we should just be wiping out. it's barbaric. It's just, where these animals end up is like no one wants to comprehend what they go through on the other end. I mean, ultimately, animals still die here, but the way they're treated before they're died over there or the way they're killed is just so much more brutal. And the conditions they're in, they're in hot, sweltering conditions. They're not transported in a way that they could ever be comfortable. So live export has to end. Again, that's another single issue. Live export's a single issue, but it's definitely something that gets people involved with animal rights. It gets people interested in animal rights. It gets people thinking about animals more than just commodities. So again, I do really support some of the amazing single issue campaigns that are out there. And if you do live near a port, like I've said, if you live in Adelaide, go down to the port. Like, look where the ships are. Ask me. I always, my wife's really good. She does a lot of monitoring of the ships and does check out when they're here, and we sort of keep tabs on that. So whenever we have free time, we can get down there. So if you want to know and you live in Adelaide, let me know. If you don't live in Adelaide, look at some of your local ports, see if there are ships coming into those ports, and if there's any way that you can get public access to or close enough to the ships to be able to at least document what's going on or see the animals off. Besides the live export stuff, we've got another Anonymous for the Voiceless event coming up next week, I think. And that'll be the first one in about 2 months too. It's been pouring with rain. I've been away for a couple of weeks. We just haven't had the opportunity to have an event for a couple of months. So it's going to be really, really good to get another one off the ground. Anonymous for the Voiceless has been traveling around the world. The founders, Paul and Asal, have been setting up demos in new cities all over the world, and they've done a bunch of public outreach in the UK. So it's a really, really growing movement. It's a really effective way of getting involved in activism. It's a really effective way of getting people to think about animal rights, but it's a really good way to get involved in animal rights activism, because you really can either just be someone holding the screens or standing there not saying anything to anyone, but you're drawing the people in, and then the other people can talk to the people who are coming up and wanting to ask questions about what they're seeing. So it's, whatever level of confidence you have, you can still get involved. So we'll be doing a little bit of that over the next few weeks. And besides that, we're actually going to go down. Adelaide's just got a new tuna pen down at Victor Harbour. It's these new pools that they've built and they have tuna in them, so people can see and I think even swim with the tuna. Perhaps it's a entertainment thing. They'll say it's for conservation, but we're going down to actually check out what exactly is going on down there, and I will report back on that on the next episode of the podcast. Until then, I really do think I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to just blab on and talk for the sake of it. So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Thanks again for listening. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, use it a little bit. And we're on YouTube now. So I do sort of put, thoughts from time to time on YouTube. And I am looking at actually buying another camera soon so we can actually do some proper YouTube stuff. So follow us on that, and if you want to support us, we do have an online store, www.theveganalliance.bigcartel.com. We sell a bunch of stickers, t-shirts, hooded jumpers, those kind of things. All the profits go back to the animals. The only things that we ever use that money for that isn't for animals is just to pay the bills for the Vegan Alliance. For instance, my PO box, a few fees for my podcast, the $10 a month it costs to upload my podcast on SoundCloud, and that's it. The rest of the money we donate to various charities. We don't pocket any of it. We don't buy fancy shoes or cars or anything like that. So yeah, if you want to support us, we're 100% transparent where the money goes, and normally every year we'll try and post what we've donated to. So we are 100% accountable for the funds that we receive. So thanks very much. We hope that you can support us. Thanks again for listening. If you've got any other questions for For me, if you'd like me to touch base on something, I do need ideas for podcasts. Sometimes I do get a bit stuck for ideas, and I want to hear, I want to be able to answer your questions. So if there's anything that you would like me to talk about, someone you might like me to interview, someone, anything at all, please get in touch, and I'll do my very best to include that on an upcoming episode. So thanks again, and until next time, stay vegan.